So now we're going to move on to passive mobility assessment of the upper thoracic spine.
Okay.
Now, just for completion in teaching, and Naomi had a little bit of stiffness in the upper thoracic spine that influenced her cervical spine movement. If you remember, flexion, left rotation. Now, it's independent what's happening here. I wouldn't do this as in the same session, but just to show you the techniques. That in this position, you can put her in her head, a little bit of flexion and left rotation, but it needs to be very comfortable. You're okay there? Okay. And so what we need for these facet joints to get left rotation is left facet gliding caudally, right facet gliding cranially, and the spinous process will therefore turn to the right. So that's what would happen in the thoracic spine to aid flexion, left rotation of the cervical spine, if the testing showed that by gliding that to at the upper thoracic spine helped to arrange. So just like we did down here, you can use your cranial mobilization to get those facet joints gliding cranially. So you can do your pivums and see if that feels stiff gliding forward, and really focus on T1 to 4. They're the ones that are needed for cervical spine rotation. So it's just taking that same technique and moving it further up the neck. So here we'll go through looking at rotation. She feels quite good in that position, looking at those facet joints gliding caudally. Can you feel that one, Naomi? Yeah. How about that one?
That's not as bad.
Not as bad. And then. So what you can do is you can do it like this, or you can get your hand cupped over the spinous process and just glide that whole segment caudally. So you're pushing down towards her toes. She actually felt stiffer going down into. So that would be getting those facet joints to go caudally, so effectively getting a little bit of extension in the thoracic spine at kind of, that's probably C3, that is probably T3 and T4. And so then the other thing that was restricted with Naomi was left rotation. So just like down here, you can get in and try to mobilize the facet joint on the right cranially and the left caudally. So like a screw mobilization. Tuck your chin in for me. If I've got, this bed doesn't go down at the top here, but I would have her in a bit more flexion. But for this area, what I find works really well is you put your fingers against the spinous process to the level above and below, and then just you're pushing that spinous process to the right, which, and that one's a bit stiff. Can you feel that, Naomi? So by pushing the spinous process to the right, that's like the ponytail on a girl's head. So you get left rotation of that level. See, and then once we get down here, that moves quite nicely. That's the way. So Randall, with the upper thoracic, your battle is a lot more with soft tissue, because you have your traps, you have a lot of structures there. So often I resort to using the spinous process.
Right.
Because then if you think about it, if these are your facets and your spinous process is there, if you push the spinous process caudally, you'll get this happening. And if you push the spinous process to the right, so long as there's not a fracture there, then you will get the whole segment left rotating. And I think particularly when you've got all those traps and things.
What about any of the techniques where you'll get them over in prone and use kind of one of those positions and move side to side, and do you use those?
I think they can be really, really effective as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different techniques you can use to create the same functional movement. And I think when you say over in prone, did you mean over in supine?
Over in supine, correct? Yeah, sorry.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The reason I tend not sometimes to treat people in supine is because of me.
Right.
Do you know my small frame?
Yes.
And I can get better force here than this, and with my hands. So I think both are just as valid as each other, and it's what you as a therapist feel for your longevity or your techniques. You feel that you get more bang for your buck, really.
Okay.
So now we're just going to reassess that. Okay, so Naomi, we're reassessing upper thoracic spine. So you tuck your chin in, down, and rotate to the right. How's that feel?
That's fine.
Any pulling at all through there?
A tiny bit of pulling through there, but not much.
Not whereabouts?
Just there.
So what we could even then do is give you some stretches for those muscles. Scalene stretches, levator scap stretches, which, you know, in your cervical spine, online training or shoulder, we could go through that outside the scope of this really, because it's your neck, but I'll give you some if you feel like it. But that stiffness here was independent from down here. Interestingly, Naomi didn't mention about her neck until after the session, and she said she was getting a little bit of neck tightness at the front, but it was her thoracic spine that worried her a lot.
Right.
So you will see in the PhysioTrack program, as we progressed her function, I did give her some cervical spine things to do.
Okay.
And but just know that that's different to the thoracic spine.
Bugbear of all therapists, where 5 minutes to go or on the way out, it's like, oh, I forgot to tell you.
Yes, absolutely. And Naomi had given so much extra time. I think if I hadn't gone there, she wouldn't have mentioned it, because it was the thoracic spine that was the issue. But I just wanted to preempt that, because when you see her PhysioTrack program, there will be some neck exercises in there.